Actions speak louder than words, and in your face, you show behavior, you show action.
Listening with your eyes at how, what are they doing? How are they responding with their face?
Ultimately, in business, you sell hope and happiness, and the hope is about the prospect of happiness.
On episode 336 of the podcast, we are talking about facial coding and emotional intelligence in business and filmmaking. Yes, it sounds like a lot, but you're going to learn the importance of emotional intelligence and how to read facial expressions to build rapport in business and in your commercial filmmaking. You're going to discover practical applications of facial coding. We're going to unpack what that even means, and how to create successful pitches in sales, and how it can help you create more engaging interviews. And then you'll also hear Dan share techniques for creating emotionally resonant videos and what you're going to want to avoid. All that and more in today's episode. What's up, my friend? Hey, I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers. I just checked, we're in the top 19 shows on business and marketing in the country of Estonia. That is awesome. If you are looking for a community of like-minded filmmakers and you want to elevate your business practices without sacrificing your soul, then go watch my 6-figure filmmaking workshop, where I share 18 years worth of my own commercial filmmaking mistakes and some wins there in an easily consumable format, with action steps on how you can level up your work, how you can charge more, and build a business that is sustainable while not having to compromise your creative integrity. This workshop is completely free. I'm super excited. I want to invite you to join us in the workshop. We're going to cover key strategies and techniques that have helped me and countless others transform our business, attract high-paying clients, and maintain a balanced lifestyle, which is so important in this work that we do. It's so easy to get swallowed up by it and completely consumed by all of the things, and then forget about why we got into this work to begin with. So check out the workshop. You can access it at studiosherpas.com/workshop. It's completely free. It is my gift to you. And after you join, you'll also be invited to our exclusive online community where you can connect with me and 1,000 other filmmakers on a similar journey. Again, studiosherpas.com/workshop. Okay, with that, let's jump into today's episode. What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to another episode. Today, I have with me Dan Hill, PhD. Dan is an internationally recognized expert on the role of emotions in business, politics, and sports, among other realms. In 1998, he founded Sensory Logic, which is a market research firm that specializes in the use of facial coding to capture and quantify people's emotional responses to sundry stimuli. Yeah. The company has done work for over 50% of the world's top 100 B2C advertisers. Dan's the author of 10 books, just found out he's working on another one, says it's his last, we'll see. He's spoken to audiences in over 25 countries and has been a pundit for CNN, Fox, MSNBC, etc. on presidential candidates. His work for Pro and Division I NCAA teams led to a front page profile in the New York Times. Dan, it's so good to have you on this show, man. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the conversation.
So even in my stumbling of I'm like sundry stimuli, I think that was the part where as I'm learning about you, I'm like, I don't even know what in the world that means, but I do know, I found you from the great guys over at BombBomb, wrote the book, Human-Centered Communication. And for me, that I feel like that has been such a, I accidentally stumbled into being somewhat successful in business because of, I think, my desire for that and the importance that I've put on that in my dealings with business. So give us some background with your expertise. What in the world does that mean, and how can it help us filmmakers?
Well, first of all, sundry means variety because I'm a very curious person like you, and I like to get all sorts of new opportunities for applying my craft. Your listeners, your viewers are probably wondering what in the world is facial coding. So maybe I'll clarify that rather quickly.
Please.
So we have faces. Guess what? They express really well. Someone once said that the most valuable 25 inches of real estate in the world is from your eyebrows to your chin.
Wow.
Because you give away how you feel. And if you are running a business, trying to sell in your services to people, making sure your customers are satisfied, keeping your employees with you, my God, all of that depends on being able to read the room and to know whether you're emotionally connecting with people or unfortunately putting them off. And the face is the only place in the body where the muscles attach right to the skin. So you get a quick, real-time read of what's going on for the other party. And that's why I love facial coding.
And so, I mean, how do you even get into that? And like, it's just such a, I mean, it makes sense, right? It makes sense that it's a thing. But the fact that it's your specialty, how do you get into that? And then let's think about, hey, I'm in sales. Like that's what all of us that run these, we start these businesses because of our passion for filmmaking, but then find out pretty quick that we need to be selling what we're doing. So this seems like it's probably pretty important in the work that we do.
It's extremely important. So I'll give you the backstory and then I'll get to the application in sales. So my father worked for the 3M company. Eventually he was in charge of printed Post-it notes, but earlier he was in the film division. So this is an appropriate interview to be doing.
There you go.
He got posted to Italy. Guess what? I did not know Italian. I suddenly found myself in Italian first grade in a fishing village on the Italian Riviera. And the only thing I could do was fall back on reading the facial expressions of my classmates to kind of know who the alliances were, what the clicks, the give and take of things. So it starts there. It adds to the fact that my mom was an interior designer. So she was visually oriented. And she took me around to all the art museums in Europe, and I fell in love with Rembrandt at the age of 7. Rembrandt happens to do faces extremely well. So then you start applying that to, my Topps baseball card collection, my looking at the covers of Rolling Stone magazine too.
Yes.
Yeah, all those sorts of things. But faces are just tremendously important. And I think I just had a natural calling for it, based probably starting with the experiences in Italy. But you're absolutely right. We have a business only to the extent that we can sell into somebody. We need revenue. We need to figure out who we're going to attract and who we're going to repel and what messages are going to work for us. So let me give you a really specific example of this. I'm with Home Depot. And I'm in Canada, I'm in Toronto, and I'm trying to dislodge the incumbent because most companies, when you sell to them, they have a provider they've already been using occasionally or frequently. Your task is to very gently nudge them out of place by suggesting why you are superior than the current provider. In this case, I realized I tried a little too hard, and the guy was a little bit too devoted to who he already had. He never told me that verbally. He told it to me on his face because anger is a really frequent expression. One of the ways you can show anger is that the lips press together and they press together so hard that you get a slight bulge just below the lower lip.
Oh, man.
He showed that. It's called action unit number 23. He showed it on his face and I went, oh my God, I'm in trouble. So I spent the rest of the time in the conversation trying to soft pedal what I had just been saying and to try to win him over. But I never saw a more genuine smile come from him in the rest of the time we had together. And yes, I was dead on because when I contacted him as the follow-up, he did not respond to my emails or to my voicemail messages. Oh. On the other hand, I can tell you about being with Toyota, successfully pitching to them. I could see they were a bit distracted, already thinking, well, this isn't going to really turn into something. And the key person in the room was checking his phone. And I had to reel him in. I had to get his attention back. So I thought about a detail that I had actually been interviewed for Automotive News. And I'd been sent around to facially code the fronts of cars for what kind of personalities, car fronts, the grills, the headlights show. And I threw that into the conversation. And I got him back paying attention, got the contract, did the work. So it's all about reading the room. LBJ, the former president, said, if you can't walk into a room and know who's with you and who's against you, you ain't worth spit as a politician. Yeah. You are also not worth spit as a business person if you can't read that room. And my goal in this conversation today, in part, is to help your audience get a little bit better sense of how they can pitch and market themselves successfully.
Yeah, that's so good. It's so funny. Even as you were describing that, I was like, shoot, what is my facial expression right now? What it was, I feel like I might be being judged currently. Oh no, what do I do?
You're a very warm person. I don't think you have a lot to hide, but I have had a lot of meetings where about 5 minutes in, they said, it is so interesting to meet you, and if you don't mind, I'm not going to swivel my chair away from you so that you can't read my face during this conversation.
Yeah, I'm just I'll duck down here. Quick derailment. What was your favorite baseball card that you ever owned?
Well, I grew up in Minnesota, so Rod Carew was my hero because he was a fabulous player. And what I really loved about him was that one season he stole home base 6 times. I thought that was so cool because I played Little League Baseball. I was very quick, but they had a rule that you couldn't steal home. So I could steal second and third, and then I just had to sit there. But he played almost like he was a ballet dancer. I mean, he had such a nice soft poke into center field over the shortstop, and then lo and behold, he's on first base. The guy was over 300 hitter all of his career. Never had a scandal, never a problem. Ideal teammate. I just thought he had so much emotional intelligence and so much grace for how he played. Yeah,
that's awesome. Oh, good old Rod. Yeah, he's a goodie. Oh, that's so good. So, okay, what'd you call it? Action unit number 23? Is that?
Yes, I did. Which means muscle movement, facial muscle movement that reveals something.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's one thing to be able to read and understand what you're seeing, but you kind of said when you were hanging out with Toyota, like you saw that and you responded, right? You did something in order to change what you were seeing. So what else, like what other, I mean, in the sense where, the other guy, kind of gave you number 23 and you're like, oh no, like, and you did your best to, try to figure out what to do there. What other like clues should we be looking for in a sense where we might need to, shut up, keep talking, change the subject, reel people in? Like, what are some other like, red flags, maybe not the right word, but like, facial things?
It's a good question. Let me go to one contrasting pair, and then maybe we'll dive into some others. So a smile is a great thing. I mean, a smile is almost like nature's version of a neon sign that says "Open for Business." It means that the person you're pitching to is open to what you're saying, which is a lovely thing because people, when they're open, they're expansive, they're thinking about solutions, and they're with you, they're bonding with you. But a fake smile, a glued-on smile is not the same thing. And so we need to talk about the timing of expressions and particularly the timing of a smile. All of our expressions come and go rather quickly when they're genuine. It's almost like a wave gathering on Lake Michigan, the Pacific Ocean, whatever. It has a crest and it breaks as it hits the shore. So most expressions will be over in like second and a half. Oh, wow. 2 seconds. Really brief. A fake smile, and you see these from the politicians. Oh, gosh. The fake smiles go on and on. They're what I call the Energizer Bunny of social smiles.
Right.
It's just the little rabbit just keeps running in place. And that is problematic. It's also problematic if the smile comes on too quickly, like a light bulb.
Yeah.
That's not natural. The wave gathers. It's not at its high point immediately. And the other thing is when it's over, it breaks. It doesn't just like fall off your face like it's a guillotine blade dropping, onto its victim. So if you're in a pitch meeting, you'd think it's going well, but you have a little bit of suspicion that they're just glad-handing you and waiting for you to get out of their office, then you better look at the nature of the smile and the rhythm of the smile, and that's going to give you a distinction that's worth paying attention to.
That's so good. I read in a book, this was a long time ago, this is probably 25 years ago, I read in a book where this guy had mentioned how like all the muscles that it takes to smile, and then the many more muscles it takes to like frown, or like, to not even have a facial expression. And his advice was like, hey, like, if you're walking in a grocery store, try just like having like a little bit of a smile, as you're looking at people and passing people. And I started doing that I was like, I think still barely a teenager. And I started doing that, and people would they'd have their like frown, I'm at the grocery store, wife sent me, like I got, stuff to do or whatever. And they'd see this like random kid like smiling at them, and like it would change their countenance. And that has always stuck with me. So even as you're describing, like, oh yeah, your smile, like a second and a half, I'm like, oh shoot, like I can't wipe the smile off my face. I'm just like, then I start thinking, I'm like, wait, is this genuine? Is it? I'm having this whole internal dialogue as you're describing all that. But I will say that I think somewhere along the line, I'm a person, I've got a lot of joy, but I've also, I think, trained myself to say like, it's easier to smile and like to like try to exchange this joy with somebody else. So I kind of have programmed myself, and hopefully it doesn't ever come off as like, oh my gosh, this guy is like so inauthentic. But is there anything in there worth chatting about, or
Yeah, there are a couple of things occurred to me as I was listening to you there. One is, just because I said it's a second and a half doesn't mean you couldn't have repeat waves.
Sure.
So you have new intensity, new throbs of what's happening with the smile, for instance. The other thing that's really important there, I think you're alluding to it, is all emotions, and certainly happiness, smiles, are contagious.
Yeah.
You feel happy? Boy, I might feel more happy than I was. You can fake a smile, and then you might fake it till you make it. You might actually change how you're feeling, because the body's very sensitive to all its muscle activities. I remember early on I was pitching a woman in Phoenix, and I wasn't very comfortable. I just started my business, and she cut me off. She said, "Oh, honey, just spit it out. What are you trying to sell me?" That was the last phone call I made for the day. I headed to the beach. I took a deep breath, and the next day I typed out a few bullet points for myself, put it, on the bulletin board by where the phone was, practiced a fake smile before I made the first call. And honest to God, within 2 weeks, I wasn't even looking at the bulletin board for the bullet points anymore. I'd internalized it. I'd gotten more comfortable. I was having more fun, and it all just started working. So that woman did me a great favor by blowing me up, because it made me up my game.
Well, and that's
but
the
it was
other
painful
thing,
in the moment.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The more you practice that, like it does become like, oh, this actually is, it's easy. And then it becomes natural. The other thing I was going to say is like, when you do like, smile at somebody, it's reciprocated, right? People are like, oh yeah, like I want to smile too. Yeah. And so they might start to smile a little bit, but then your response to them smiling, you creates like a bigger smile, like, oh, okay, like cool. And then it's just, I read this, I forget where it was just a couple of weeks ago, where it's just like this back and forth, you might have a little smile, and then all of a sudden like it grows and grows, because you guys are just exchanging this moment. And I'm like, that is amazing.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, you're surfing at Maui, because the smiles have gotten so big that the crests are way up there.
Or you're just hanging out at Lake Michigan. That's my jam.
Well, I'm from Minnesota. There's people who actually do winter surfing in Lake Superior. I think they're insane, but they do it.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. Well, I think the other part, there's definitely like in the sales process. Well, actually, I'll bring this up too. I read another book, and I'm not trying to sound like smarter than I am. I have an Audible subscription, so I'm like always listening to books. But I read a book somewhat recently where the author has glasses. They're not prescription, but he wears them when he does sales meetings to create empathy. Like, I mean, obviously that's not, muscles in your face, but that's still part of your presentation, right?
Yeah, I find that a little peculiar that if he just wears them for the presentations, is he trying to look more nerdy, more intellectual, and he thinks
his point was that
it seems odd.
His point was, and there was some research done on this, that people have more empathy toward people when they wear glasses because maybe for whatever reasons that when we look at people and they have glasses, there's just this sense of empathy. So interesting.
Now you're making me think. Now you're making me think that I should have gone to all my pitch meetings with a cane in hand and stumbled slowly into the room.
My back.
Yeah, I am hurting so badly. You better buy from me. But let's go to another place that's actually quite important. I just mentioned a smile. There's also a smirk that looks like a smile. The corner of the mouth, usually unilaterally, which means one side only. The corner of the mouth goes up, but it's got a tension to it because contempt is an emotion that kind of is a blend almost of happiness and anger. Because a smirk means I don't trust you, I don't respect you, and I find you beneath me. Now, we always talk about how trust is the emotion of business. So now you're saying, well, how could it have some happiness in it if I don't trust you? Well, because then you are superior to the liar. And human nature is such that we enjoy feeling superior to others. So that's the peculiar thing about it. But at the same time, it does involve anger, which means I'm prepared not to hug you, but rather to hit you.
Yeah.
That I want you away from me, that you are a threat to me. And I think the biggest thing that's important for anyone who's selling, and yes, my dad said to me early on, he said, your customers will decide what business you're in and even whether you have a business. So you better pay attention to them. And anger is really important because it means that they are resisting you. They're resenting you. If they're showing contempt, they don't trust you. They're going to back off from you. And if you think about that, your goal is to break that down and get past those problems. But one of the ways in which you may create anger could not even occur to you, which is they're confused. Because anger as an emotion is ultimately about, I want to be in control of my circumstances and I want to make progress. If you come in and you make a pitch and you use crazy things like AU23 and they go, what in the world are you talking about? And you confuse them, then they don't feel like they're in control of the meeting anymore and they're not making progress toward clarity. And now you're going to lose them. And it's remarkably easy to lose people because you know your stuff. You think they're going to be wowed by it and they're going to follow as you connect, point A to point B to point C. But the truth of the matter is they can be tired. They can be thinking about their next meeting. They can be thinking about their marital problems. God knows what they're thinking about. Yeah. And your goal is to help make it easy enough to digest what you're offering them. So my company, as you mentioned, has done all sorts of work for major companies. And that includes a lot of pharma companies that have the sales reps on the road. And we discovered that a short script, a short sales pitch deck works a whole lot better than a long one. Get in, get out. God had 10 commandments. I'm not trying to be religious, but if that's true, and Moses had 10 commandments, why would you want a pitch deck that's more than 10 slides?
Yeah.
I mean, it's too much.
Right. Yeah, that's good. When you do if you were to pitch somebody right now, do you have like a formula in your mind, like how you want to show up in those meetings?
Sure. The most important part of the meeting is quite possibly before the formal meeting starts. It's when they first lay eyes on me. We're sitting down, finding a point of commonality. You can go to the weather. You can go to where they grow up, where went to school, favorite sports team. You might notice something in their room, their office. I mean, that all sounds terribly cliched, and it is. But you are trying to find some point of commonality because ultimately in business you sell hope and happiness. And the hope is about the prospect of happiness. So it's all about happiness, which means it's all about bonding, which means you better find ways to connect and bond as quickly as you can, because once you get into the sales pitch itself, they're starting to think about, okay, is it trustworthy? I've already got an incumbent. What's the price point? How fast are they going to deliver this? There's all sorts of worries that start to pop up that take you away from happiness. So if you can create the happiness early, then you got momentum going into the pitch presentation itself. So that's really almost the most essential thing is the pre-story, not the story of the deck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then I guess to bookend that, on your way out, like what's are you thinking? I mean, is there any way there to kind of like leave them with this like feeling of trust, or do you feel like just the building throughout is enough?
No, I'm looking for the moment that they most reacted to in a positive way.
Yeah.
If I got a smile out of them or a good big smile. I mean, what was it? What story did I tell? What slide did I show? What example, application? Something that woke them up, because even beyond a smile, just the fact that they're expressing a lot at certain points is really important to pay attention to. Emotion and motivation. I'm going to wow you with another AU23 sort of moment.
Give it to me.
Motivation and emotion in Latin have the same root word, which is movere, to move, to make something happen. If you're going in and selling somebody, you want something to happen. You want them to buy. Well, if they don't show any emotion on their face, then they don't care. And you was just talking to yourself. You wasted your half hour. And so you're looking for the moments where there was some activity on their side in their face. Because don't trust the words. I mean, people lie all the time.
Right.
I mean, my God, it's the craziest thing imaginable to depend on the words. Actions speak louder than words, and in your face, you show behavior, you show action.
Wow.
So I am closing the meeting by finding what was the strongest card that I played in the poker game, and I'm playing it a second time.
Yeah, that's really good. You've got 10 books. You're working on, this is number 11. This might sound like totally rude, but like, what else do you have to say?
Well, not all of them are business books. I mean, one was actually, which I think will interest your audience. It was actually a book on art. I used eye tracking and facial coding to get at people's intuitive reactions to famous art.
Oh, wow.
And here's a little tidbit. It was the biggest study ever done involving those two tools in art, and people's reactions front-loaded big time. Most of their reaction, I'm even talking about to Mona Lisa, to Jackson Pollock. I mean, you know, Edward Hopper, you can go any place. Most of their reaction happened within, you tell me, how many seconds do you think their reaction took? What was the peak?
3 seconds.
Exactly. Hut, hike.
Wow.
Play on. Yeah. No, the peak came within 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it started falling away badly.
Oh my gosh.
Right after that. So that's my next advice. 10 slides only, and don't put 2,000 words on the slide, because it will take you a lot more than 3 seconds to explain the slide in your pitch deck. Yeah. So people go away fast. Grab them early, accept the fact that in the middle they're going to snooze, and get them at the end.
Well, I think with that same, I love, okay, so it seems like a worthy, book, like, write on. You have my permission to keep writing. I've
also written about U.S. presidents. I've written about celebrities. I've written on advertising, whatever. Yes.
I love it.
But I'm glad to have your permission. Now I can go on living.
So with that same, I've heard people who are like professional, they sell through webinars, right? So you log in, you watch this 45-minute presentation, and I think their recommendation was like, every 10 seconds you should be switching your slides, right? To keep that engagement. Fewer words, the better. Use pictures. And I know, Jeff Bezos over at Amazon, I think that's one of his things too. I don't know if he even allows people to put words on slides, or if he just says like use pictures. But if it is words, it's like very, very few words. Any thoughts on any of that craziness?
Yeah, people don't read a lot, and when they do read, they're going to stop reading often, because I've used eye tracking on print ads, and I know they might read 3 words. You could have 40 words on the slide, and they're going to read maybe 3 to 5 of them. So think in terms of billboards. Billboards don't have a lot of words on them. The image is really important, but boy, you're going 35 minutes and showing a new slide every 10 seconds. That's a lot of slides. Those babies are going to start to blur together really badly. So can you mix it up? Can you have some video in there besides still imagery? That'd be one thing I suggest, because people pay attention to motion, as any filmmaker would know. Can you use faces? I mean, I know from my research, it's not just because I'm a facial coder. If there's a face involved, the engagement level goes up, the emoting goes up, and most of the attention visually will go to the face. Because we all want to know in life, friend or foe.
Yeah.
You with me, you against me. It's survival instinct.
Yeah.
But I think it's the story you can tell that goes with the visual. People like stories. I mean, Hollywood's not dumb. In the pitch meeting, what they ask almost immediately, rather than blah, 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 is, but what's the story? What's the story of your movie?
Yeah.
Have stories.
Yeah.
So some really great images, very few words. A couple of killer statistics never hurts. People will notice numbers because it's ka-ching.
Yep.
It's the money. And then get out, start asking questions. There's a wonderful, my favorite New Yorker cartoon of all time. My wife's heard this a million times, is two women are talking and one says to the other, but enough about me. What do you think about me? People are self-centered.
Yeah, we are.
They want to ask the questions and know the things that they want to know. And your pitch may not even get to the things they care about. So my basic advice is, sooner than later, shut up.
Yeah.
Ask your questions, sit back, invite them to ask questions. They'll answer their own questions probably. And then you're going to know where they're coming from. If you don't know where they're coming from, it's a really bad meeting.
Yeah.
No matter how eloquent you think you were, you may think you have the most beautiful pitch deck in the world. It matters not one iota if you haven't connected.
Yeah, I think that's super powerful.
Yeah.
It's like I had a sort of it was an accidental pitch meeting earlier today where I just wanted to ask questions, but they're like, hey, we'll come to your studio, and then they starts interviewing me. He's like just asking me all these questions, and I'm like, man, I wanted to find out from him, well, what's and now, even in our conversation, I'm like, I should have asked more questions, and I should instead of just answer all of his, and then there was even at the very end.
No, you're doing fine.
He set me up at the very end. He's like, oh, it's 12:02. I got to go watch the Masters. He's like, do you watch the Masters? And I was like, no. But that was his he was kind of opening the door to do I have a new friend here? And I was like, sorry. I'm like, but I've been to and I tried explaining some golf match that I was at, and he's kind of laughing at me. I'm like, it was over there, the Buick Open. I'm like, yeah, I think it was the Buick Open. And I'm like, it was cool when I was there, but I don't really watch golf. So
well, the key is at least you tried. You tried, so that's you'll get points for trying. Yeah.
So let's transition to the actual art of filmmaking. A couple of things here. There's a lot of us are doing interviews, right? So we're sitting across from somebody, and very important to try to build rapport and to create that connection so that the interview feels real, authentic. It's just very natural, not canned at all. And then there's the other, the actual editing or the shooting of how are we framing this? And I know you might have some thoughts on faces in all of that.
Oh yeah, because I've tested so many TV spots for major companies around the world. The number of errors that get made is astronomical, and so here's some free advice.
Yes, please.
So they can be more effective filmmakers. And it's the shooting and it's the editing. So first of all, yes, the face. It will win out. It is a visual vampire. If you have something else on screen that matters, you better put it in proximity to the face, or the person's looking toward it, because otherwise the face is just going to win out, and it's going to be as if it's not even on the screen. Don't make the camera angle too oblique. There are plenty of studies out there, scientific studies, that would show you that our amount of emotional engagement declines to the extent that we can't see most of the face anymore. So if it's slightly turned, I'm a little less emoting. If it's in profile actually works a bit because it's 100 mode. That's the one exception. But if you start to move toward the back of the face or more around it, it really falls away. Early on we tested for Levi's. Commercial worked great. Suddenly at the end, the guy leaves the nightclub, leaves the woman behind. All you see is his backside. Well, when do you see people's backside? When your lover is leaving, or someone has spurned you and is ditching you. I mean, the backside, unless they have a great tush, isn't so wonderful. Emotionally, we disconnect.
Right.
And the commercial just fell apart. You remember endings, and the ending they felt emotionally was, you just wrenched me out of the scene that I was relating to.
Yeah.
So don't do the oblique angle. Don't make the lighting so dark that they can't see it. Don't make it so distant that they can't be rewarded. Hollywood, again, is not dumb. Close-ups work. Don't do the editing so tight that you're making people work really hard. Human beings are naturally lazy. We are house cats. We would sit around all day happily rather than go work. So if you make them drink from a fire hose, like your person you said was going to switch the slides every 10 seconds for 35 minutes, oh my God, that's like being sent to San Quentin to die. I mean, that's just too much hard labor. It's not going to work. So that's really important. And then get the person involved. I mean, what do we say? What does every wife say when she divorces her husband? The guy was a blank slate. I was talking to a brick wall. There was nothing there. I didn't feel like he was home emotionally. Don't give them someone on screen who might have really good answers, be really articulate, but nothing is happening on the face. The visual, every filmmaker, knows this. The visual is more important than the words. Yeah. They're always more important. I mean, what did Warren Beatty say? Give me any script and cut it in half, please. Cut the words down. Wow. Get to the essence. The essence is the person, and do they care about what they're saying and who they are and what's happened to them and the messaging you're trying to convey. Get the buzz going. Get the resonance going in the face. Then you got something. I'd even throw away a really well-stated comment if it's dull on the face in favor of one that's not quite as articulate, but it's warmer. It's more lively.
Yeah. Man, that's gold. That's all. That's really, really good.
Well, that's what I'm trying to just hand you. Free gold. That's my task here.
I love it. Well, Dan, what am I not asking you? We're going to get out this interview and you're going to be like, I can't believe Ryan never asked me that one question.
Geez, I don't know. Let's talk about fear for a moment, because I think that the other thing in a pitch meeting is they come into it wondering if you're a predator or an ally. I mean, you're just trying to make money off them, or are you going to actually help them out? And so, obviously them smirking and full of contempt for you is not a good thing. Them being angry and confused is not a good thing, like the eyebrows lower, the lips set firmly. But fear, where the mouth pulls wide, like in an egads expression, that's probably the other watch out here we need to cover just before we finish things. Yeah, you did it pretty well. You just said something that makes them think, he is a predator, actually. Yeah. So I'll get killed if I sign off on this agreement. Right. If that happens, you're going to have to try to walk back whatever just caused them to feel that way. It may not be easy, but at least if you're paying attention and you see it, you know what battle you got to fight. Yeah. And so I think that's really the last thing I would give people, besides the fact that they should read all 10 of my books and the one I haven't written yet.
Obviously.
No. But yeah, that's what those are the key things. Yeah. Get to the smile, avoid the anger, watch out for the smirks and the fear. Yeah. I think that's your simple version of the emotional playbook.
I love it. I think one of my takeaways here too is that our default is to be lazy, and in any sort of conversation, listening is super important. Asking questions is so important, right? If you want to be interesting, be interested, right, in who you're with, and paying attention to like how you're showing up, how you're presenting your emotions and in your own presence, but also listening with your eyes at how, like, what are they doing? How are they responding with their face? I think that's just something that I've never paid attention to, like, intentionally. But I think going into meetings now, I'm going to be looking a little bit differently as I'm chatting or listening to whoever I'm across. So that's really good stuff, man.
Well, I love what you just said. I'm going to steal it from you. Listening with your eyes. That's exactly it. I've never, in all these years, I've never once put it in those terms. That's a great way to say it.
It's going to be my first book,
really
Dan,
is.
and I'll let you know when it comes out.
I'll write a blurb for you. How's that?
I love it. Dan, where can people find you online and follow along with all your books and everything else you got going on?
Well, guess what? I've got a website, and it's the obligatory 3 W's and sensory logic, like your 5 senses. So you'll see the books, you'll see where I've given speeches, all that stuff. You'll learn a bit about facial coding. That's the easiest and best thing. It has all the links to the social media stuff. Just go to the bloody website. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that was amazing. Any parting thoughts here before we finish up today?
Well, I liked your point about listening, because in the Devil's Dictionary by Ambrose Bierce, he was a contemporary of Mark Twain, he had all these diabolical definitions, and one of my favorites is bore, noun, someone who talks when you want them to listen. So think about that when you go to the next meeting.
I love it. Dan, appreciate you so much. Best wishes. Good luck on this next final-ish book, and just appreciate your time today. All right, my friend, thank you for making it through the episode. You can access the show notes and the links and all the things that we talked about by going to studiosherpas.com/336, because that's what episode this was, 336. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, I would love to hear, what are your takeaways? Facial recognition, like emotional intelligence, like all of that stuff. What's stuck? What stands out? Are you going to do anything different? Shoot me a message or comment there, or you can shoot me an email, ryan@studiosherpas.com. Would love to hear from you. If you like this episode, if you want to rate the show, you can do that all from the show notes area. If you think that somebody else might benefit from this episode, grab a screenshot, screen grab. Darn it, what is it? I promised myself I'd learn what that is, because again, my kids make fun of me because I say the wrong one, except for I think you all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, take a screen grab shot and send that via text. Oh man, this is amazing. Let's just leave all of this in here. Send that to a friend that you think might enjoy this episode. I appreciate you so much. Again, don't hesitate to reach out. We're on the socials at Grow Your Video Business, and I'm at Ryan Coral. It's Koral. Until next week, my friend, onward and upward. I am here to support you, to cheer you on in your video business. Thanks for hanging with me, and we'll talk to you really soon. See ya.